Namaste, my name is Krishna Desai and welcome to my presentation. Today I will be discussing the Vedic roots of artificial intelligence. So, as for an introduction, the power that us humans hold to verbally speak into our phones and ask for direction or ask Siri a question, or the ability for us to sit in a car that can drive itself without human control is the result of the implementation of artificial intelligence. This field of science has a critical impact on our world today. However, this is not a modern concept. This presentation will dive into the background of AI and robotics while providing a comprehensive breakdown of the Vedic and Dharmic mentions of this topic. So, as for a background of artificial intelligence, there's two different types. And type 1 is broken down into three categories. There is narrow AI, strong AI, and super intelligence. So narrow AI is designed to focus on a single task. We can see that through self-driving cars, perhaps, or even chat boxes. Strong AI is designed to take on a multitude of functions. It's supposed to build up stamina to end up solving new problems. And superintelligence is still being researched, but it transcends beyond strong AI and is still deemed speculative, as I mentioned before. We currently are still on that bridge between narrow AI and general strong AI. So type 2 consists of four parts. There are reactive machines, limited memory, theory of mind, and self-awareness. So reactive machines, they're incapable of learning and they react according to the basis of the scenario. Limited memory has limited memory, right? They have these machines have the capability of learning based off of the limited memory that they possess. And they possess it for, of course, a limited period of time. Theory of mind and self-awareness are both undergoing research, but theory of mind is being designed to understand human actions, emotions, and such in order to mimic human social interactions. And self-AI is the future of AI, and it will essentially be a more intelligent, yet synthetic human. Deep learning. This is an important part of this presentation, which is why I decided to include it in this background. And deep learning is a subset of AI. More so, it's a subset of machine learning, which is a subset of AI, as you can see in the diagram on the screen. Deep learning utilizes neural networks, which are like a set of algorithms to iteratively learn data. They ultimately are designed to mimic the human brain via these hidden layers. And you can find the implementation of deep learning in image recognition or any scenario that calls for identity verification. Scholars and many scientists across the globe have issued statements warning against AI. AI's dominance in this world can be seen in the future during the collapse of industries that shifted reliance from humans to AI technologies. It's predicted that AI's presence will be potent in warfare activities, otherwise known as AI terrorism, through the use of autonomous weapons, which is, without say, very dangerous and is something that people should really be thinking about when discussing AI. And the rapid developments in AI is a cause for concern, right? Because AI's growing competence, along with its potentially misaligned goals and intelligence, is a recipe for disaster. It's something that is going to be beyond our control. And placing AI on a track it places AI on a track for like a takeover of the world. So let's now dive in to AI and understand it through the lens of Vedic wisdom. So the Vedas outlines the metaphysics of Advaita Vedanta of Hinduism, which is otherwise known as the Vedic school of non-dualism. And in this school of thought, Brahman is known. Brahman, which is the ultimate reality, is one with the Atma, but is also omnipotent. Our individual cells were composed of avidya, ignorance, and maya, which is illusion. So here's a very important quote from the Kina Upanishad, and it essentially describes Brahman, and it says, that which cannot be expressed by speech, but by which speech is expressed, that alone known as Brahman, and not that which people here worship. That which cannot be apprehended by the mind, but by which they say the mind is apprehended, that alone known as Brahman, and not that which people here worship. That which can be perceived by the eye, but by which the eye is perceived, that alone known as Brahman, and not that which people here worship. That which cannot be heard by the ear, but by which the hearing is perceived, that alone known as Brahman, and not that which people here worship. So this quote definitely can be applied to the concept of AI. The quote expresses the omnipotence and the omnipresence and the omniscience of Brahman, but it's also reminiscent of AI and its rapid takeover of the world. Let's look at the different industries. In the entertainment industry, you see AI through Amazon Alexa. You ask Alexa, hey Alexa, play my favorite song. Also, AI has been implemented in MIT's recent invention called the alter ego, and the machine is essentially you attach it to your ear and it reads your thoughts, and it's like a friend you're talking to, you're playing chess with it. So that can be applied to the mind aspect of the quote, whereas Amazon Alexa can be applied to the speech aspect of the quote that I aforementioned. Cybersecurity, you see this in facial recognition, and you can also see this in medicine through hearing aids. Now, the connection between Brahman and AI, let's dive a little bit deeper. So the components of deep learning reflects the descriptions of Brahman, as I mentioned. The key components of deep learning is hidden networks. Hidden networks are intangible layers sandwiched between the input and output layers that perform nonlinear transformations of the input. Now, that might sound confusing, but I will get into that later on in this presentation. The computer analyzes these training examples, and then it learns to perform a task, similar to how, humans, we stay in class, we look at these examples in math class, we go home, we complete our homework. It essentially works the same way, very, very reminiscent of how humans learn and complete their tasks. It has a sense of autonomy, right? If it's able to take this information on its own, observe what's happening, and then complete a task, it's autonomous. So here's the hidden layers that I was discussing, and they are supposedly supposed to mimic the human brain, and they execute a set of algorithms that verify an identity, which parallels the Kina Upanishad description of Brahman. Such algorithms cannot be perceived by the eye, but by which the eye is perceived. You can see here the red is the input layer, and the center is the hidden layer, and here's the output layer. These are the neural networks that are reminiscent of the Kina Upanishad description of Brahman. Self-awareness in AI, which this is the fourth component of type 2 AI, and famous engineer and data scientist Hod Lipson, he combined the concept of consciousness with deep learning neural networks, and he built these self-aware robots. Lipson's lab revealed a robot that uses deep learning to generate its own internal self model completely from scratch. And this robot is efficient because Lipson's lab, they essentially simulated damage on the robot's arm, and the robot had effectively detected the damage and also updated itself and fixed itself. So this idea of consciousness that we see here is explained through the Vedic concept of Antakaran, which are the four functions of the mind. So in Ahamkaran, there's four components: Buddhi, Chit, Ahamkara, and Manas. And in Buddhi means intellect, Chit is memory, Ahamkara is ego and the understanding of Brahman and our Atma, and Manas is the active mind, which controls our will, any resolutions, and our five senses. So artificial intelligence has a sense of Chit, memory from its type 1 limited memory, and it's Manas from, we can see this in Lipson's self-simulated robots. It also has a sense of buddhi through the neural networks, but it does not have a full sense of ahamkara, the ability to identify with Atman, the soul. But research and developments of artificial superintelligence could change this, as a machine with the capabilities that transcend beyond that of humans would be able to have ego and understand its roots from Brahman. So now let's take a look at an example of AI in the Yoga Vasishta. The Yoga Vasishta spans over like 29,000 verses, and it outlines the discourse between Rishi Valmiki and Sri Ram. And it also references the seemingly modern concept of AI through the story of Sambhurasur and his robot creation. So while trying to defeat the gods in a battle between the Asuras and Devas, the Asura Sambara created Dam, Vyal, and Kat, who later failed their missions. And these three creations could be interpreted as robots, as they were deemed to be egoless with no idea of pain or emotion. They were also equipped with self-knowledge and wisdom. They were submissive to their master and creator and devoid of all feelings, ego, and desires. However, this demon, he created three new robot creations, Bhim, Bhas, and Drud, who executed their duties, and they conveyed how Samurasur's creations reflect strong AI. They were able to battle and acquire skills along the way to ultimately complete their duties. And when the idea of I or mine crossed their minds, such thoughts vanished upon Gyan inquiry, which is the inquiry of knowledge, and Atmik inquiry, which is the inquiry of the soul, indicative of Ahamkara. They're examples of the highest branch of type 2 artificial intelligence, self-awareness, and Bhim, Bhas, and Drud behold the capabilities of a human battle in addition to spiritual and mindful powers that are able to discriminate between duty and desire. That is it for my presentation today. I hope you enjoyed and learned more about the Vedic roots of AI. I would like to thank you for joining me.